Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. But welcome and good evening, wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8. By the way, I got a soda I haven't tried before. It's a Dr. Pepper's strawberry and cream. I've obviously had tons of Dr. Pepper through my life, and I've had a couple Dr. Pepper cream sodas before, but strawberries and cream? I don't know. I can smell it even though the cap's not fully off. Certainly not bad. Definitely tastes kind of like a dessert, honestly. More than a soda. Even though most people would consider a soda liquid candy. I'm just saying, while I would definitely prefer normal Dr. Pepper, I'll say this definitely tastes more like a dessert than a soda. It's, even by soda standards, this is very sweet. I mean, it's not bad, it's just very sweet. Research notes. Oya Shiro-sama. Nobody really knows what characters to use to write Oya Shiro-sama. Knowing this is hard, partly because depending on the time period, he has been called with various titles with subtle changes to his name. And nobody knows the real one. The only thing all time periods agree on is that the four syllables O, Ya, Shi, Ro are always used. There is a theory stating that the shrine, or yashiro, dedicated to Oyashiro-sama itself became an object of worship, and that people began calling it Oyashiro-sama, or Lord Honorable Shrine. But this doesn't make a bit of sense. I don't know whether this is related, but people say that the Furude family, the most respected bloodline in terms of worshipping Oyashiro-sama, actually inherited his blood. And in the legend, the Furude family passes down. If for 8 generations in a row the firstborn child is a girl, the 8th daughter will be the reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama. If we go by this legend, the characters used for Oyashiro-sama's name should be O for honorable, Ya for 8, and Shiro for generation. These character assignments are simply something I've thought up. There is no way to verify it. If this is true, then Oyashiro-sama would have been named as such under the assumption he would come again. The second coming of an object of worship can be seen in several religions, so this isn't unusual. But a few of these religions call the second coming of their object of worship a day of judgment, or something along those lines, so we must not forget they mean it to be the end of the world. Rika Furude, pampered and loved dearly by the elderly folk in the village. The rumors say she is the 8th generation and Oyashiro-sama. I do not know the family tree of the Furudes, but at the very least I can confirm that for the past 2 generations the first child has been a girl. Rika Furude watches over Hinamizawa. If the village were to lose her protection, what would happen? Would peace between man and demon be lost? Would it once again create a hellish landscape where man-eating demons run rampant? A gruesome feast of the demons, who suddenly remembered how delicious the weak humans were, who could only cry, scream, and run for their lives. What would that look like? Just imagining it is enough to make my heart pound with excitement. Detective. Read all tips. Continue. My head was pounding. The sky was bright. It was cold, too. It hurt. Each sensation I felt led to a new and different one awakening. When I came to, I was lying face first on a dry riverbed. A few body parts hurt a lot. The skin over a bunch of my joints was torn, turned blue or red, or oozing blood. I could tell it was my bones that were in pain from the agony I felt whenever I moved. I looked up and saw how high the bridge was from which I had fallen was. Considering I dropped from there, it was a miracle I could open my eyes again. Right next to me was a broken, upside-down car seat, which I guess some pranksters had brought here. Maybe this thing had been conveniently lying under me, allowing me to escape instant death. Miraculous. Of course, I didn't know whether this miracle was fortunate or unfortunate. I'd failed to die, and now I was stuck in this insane world. How long had I been unconscious for? The sun was high in the sky, so it looked like only 1 or 2 hours had passed. But my body's sluggishness didn't make it feel all like so short a time had gone by. Mentally, it felt like I'd been asleep here for a decade. Are we sure it's even the same day? Ow. The more feeling returned to my body, the more the pain flooded in. It hurt so much it would have been better not to have woken up. I needed to get to a doctor. Yeah, to Coach's clinic. The term Coach's clinic brought back memories. One after another, memories I wish I hadn't recalled. Satoko was no longer on the bridge. She would have returned to Hinamizawa by now, and she would put on some clothes, go to the clinic, get a checkup, and report on how crazy I had seemed. The police were waiting for me without a doubt. This time, would they find out for real that I'd killed her uncle and arrest me? Or would they just send me to a mental institution like I thought they might? Still, I didn't care which it was. Please, someone stop all this pain. You can boil me or cook me after that, whatever you want. I began to walk unsteadily, just limping along. I went downstream and then through an animal trail-like path in the woods. I walked haphazardly, searching for a path I knew. Eventually, I finally came across a familiar road and set off towards the clinic. Not to my house, but to the clinic, which had treated me like a lunatic. It was hot and humid. There was no wind and the air was stagnant. For a while now I've been smelling the terrible stench of burned eggs, and it made my face scrunch up. Wait, we're smelling natural gas or propane? Why? And then at last I noticed something. I couldn't hear any cicadas. It was the first time I'd heard Hinamizawa be so utterly silent. When I thought back, it seemed like birds always chirped in the morning, cicadas always cried loudly in the afternoon, and Higurashi always rose up in chorus in the evening, always something to hear. I couldn't hear a single insect. The only thing I could hear was the rustling of the wind brushing the tree tops. I'd never experienced this sort of quiet before. Eventually, the only sound coming from the trees lacked life somehow. The trees were yellow and many leaves were spread on the ground, despite it being too early for autumn. Even the weeds that had been growing so persistently at the side of the road had yellowed, browned, and lost their vigor. It definitely reminds me of a mix of Brave Fence Musashi and Mega Man Legend. I really like the music. Please, developers of the game, please play the game Brave Fence Musashi and Mega Man Legends. They're both really good games on the PS1. And especially listen to their soundtracks. Only the sunlight itself was on the June of Hinamizawa I knew, and yet it seemed like the seasons had switched all of a sudden. Looking at the fallen leaves and rotting weeds led me to spot a few insects turned on their backs. They weren't moving. They were corpses. I looked closer to see the insect corpses scattered all around, like a child had collected them as samples, and then strewn them about. This stench. What was it? It was terrible. Like burned eggs, combined with all the bug corpses and leaves falling from the trees in summer. Had someone sprayed herbicides or pesticides around here? Even at school, we apparently fumigate. They call it pest disinfection or something, once or twice a year. I know I was saying like the main thing the smell would make me think of would be propane or natural gas, though technically those things are actually odorless. The smell of burned eggs and stuff is something we add as an additive so that if there is a leak, we're able to be aware that there's a leak and, you know, the health hazard that poses. Possibly inflammability hazard. Heck, I know many large refrigerated warehouses use a type of ammonia to make their refrigerants work. So if there's a leak, it could be very dangerous both in terms of breathing and in flames, possibly an explosion or suffocation hazard. So much so that if there is a leak, not only are people supposed to evacuate said building, but there's actually like a windsock, if people are familiar with what that is. Imagine a flag, but it's shaped like a cone to catch wind. The idea is that by looking at that, you can see which way the wind is going, because the idea is that even if you're outside, if you're standing in the same direction the wind is blowing, that you might pass out even if you're outside, or suffer adverse health effects. Now, looking at this from a logical standpoint, we could either assume that a supernatural event has occurred via Rika's death, meaning that in any scenario where Rika dies, the world itself ceases to exist within a day or two and time loops. Because, well, supernatural reasons. Obviously, we're dealing with time loops after all. However, we had to go by a more scientific or logical reason. The swamp could have a lot of dormant natural gas or something. And the same is true of any place near a volcano. It is possible that areas of water near a volcano, if a volcano were to erupt, technically iron and other chemicals leak into the water, which then can leak into the air. Technically, the iron would poison the fish a lot, but the water looked fine, so I'm just trying to... Obviously, this isn't what's happening, but I'm just saying from a scientific point of view, either a volcano could have poisoned river and then the water would start leaking the gases, or of course, you can suffocate right from the ashes of a volcano, but again, I'm pretty sure if a volcano were erupting, we would notice that. But more to the point, though there was, back in the year of 536 AD, a major volcano erupted, and of course most people across the world didn't know because internet wasn't a thing, but it did make the next... Basically, the volcano was a very large explosion, enough that it kind of put enough pollutants into the air that it inhibited the sun's light. It didn't stop summer from happening. It didn't make winter particularly cold. It's just that summer didn't get as warm as normal, and winter just stayed the normal temperature. The problem is it didn't allow a lot of things to thaw like normal. So it kind of messed up crops for a couple decades and caused a lot of famine and disease. But that's neither here than there with this situation. Obviously, we're dealing with the fact that the way this game is, it's a supernatural event occurring. But if I had to go with a natural scientific reason for this to occur, I would say the swamp. I would say maybe there's a natural gas pocket or something that may have just been somehow disturbed or released, and that should be enough to technically poison everyone in the village. insects would definitely die first because insects are less efficient with breathing than humans are. Technically, insects back during Jurassic period and all that, insects got very, very big because the oxygen content in the air was much higher and the overall temperature for the planet was higher. Now that being said, humans, obviously dinosaurs would be a threat, heck, every time period, but even before the existence of actual dinosaurs, I mean, especially the giant insects would have been honestly hell on Earth. Humans wouldn't survive that, but honestly, before that point, different microbes, bacteria, what you'd be able to eat. But more to the point is this. The temperature, humidity, ozone, most importantly, oxygen content. There'd be more oxygen in the air, which honestly would overload human lungs. It'd be too much oxygen for us to process. In general, we would die very quickly before anything had a chance to kill us. Just saying, out of all the time periods in the past, like right now, we are living at the time. I mean, heck, honestly, if you go back even a couple dozen thousand years, I mean, between overall temperature of the planet, we should be in a moderate ice age right now. But we got lucky. So, just saying, if you look through most of the planet's history, most of the history of the planet wouldn't be able to sustain human life, even in terms of air quality. But I'm just saying, more than likely the scientific reason for this would be something to do with the swamp, and then a chemical is being released that would kill the bugs first. Because that's the main reason why the bugs are smaller nowadays, because temperature and oxygen content and flora. But yeah. Now, obviously, this happens for a supernatural reason because Rika's dead. But I guess this technically means, like, for Rika, time stops when she dies. But things can keep going on for a while after Rika's death. But usually for like a couple days. But I mean, not sure. I'm just saying that town Hinamizawa might have some major problems. But scientifically, I would think maybe it's something to do with the swamp. I mean, technically, this could be a man-made thing too, but it would be a colossal undertaking to technically fumigate a fucking city like this. I mean, technically, we're surrounded by mountains, so certain chemicals would descend and sort of flood like fog would. But that would be a very unethical thing to do. But I would think scientifically, if you were thinking of natural disaster, it might be something to do with the swamp. Like some sort of chemical was released by the swamp that was kept dormant. Which means eventually all the humans would eventually either suffocate or... Because, I mean, it depends on the nature of the chemical. It could suffocate the person by either, one, displacing the oxygen content, so the person's not able to function well enough, even if it's a lowered oxygen content where eventually the brain isn't able to function as well. It could trigger parasites or genetic conditions in a human brain to take place that are normally dormant. It could accelerate normal illnesses a person's already suffering. It could cause mental instability. It could cause nausea. It could cause weakness and dizziness and confusion. Could also depend on, like, take poisons. Technically, there's different types of poisons. I mean, like I said, I was already saying about oxygen. It could either displace oxygen and suffocate you that way, or it could do something to inhibit your lungs. But as far as like poisons, technically you have toxins, poisons, and venoms. I think the difference is technically a toxin is an inorganic chemical compound that makes you sick or poisons you, but it's not. The difference is poison, like the difference between poison and poison is an organic substance. Toxin is an inorganic substance, I think. And then technically there's a difference between poison and venom. Technically both poison and venom are organic substances, but I think the main difference is poison is something that affects your blood and your cells, whereas a venom is something that affects your nervous system and causes necrosis. So technically they're all things that technically poison you, but there's a difference between, is it organic, inorganic, is it affecting your cells in your blood, or is it affecting your nervous system and causing necrosis? Just saying, these chemicals could have an effect like that as well. As maybe a neurological effect, maybe it could be like a poison, maybe it could be like radiation, that sort of effect. I like the music. I hadn't run into anyone despite how bright it was outside. It was mid-afternoon, yet it felt like I was sauntering about at midnight. I wonder. Well, no, if we're talking about something that's affected by gravity in terms of, like, after all, if you're in a burning building, I mean, you're supposed to stay low because the smoke rises. But of course, different things like more dense, because smoke rises in a burning building, so you have to stay low to the ground so you don't suffocate. But there's other chemicals that are naturally going to go low and you have to stay high to be above them. Kind of like I said, the way fog and mist works, or say dry ice, or I was thinking of another comparison. I already forgot what it was. Yeah, I can't remember. But though it does make you wonder about certain other things. Like, technically, especially in the past, like thousands of years ago, I mean, technically it wasn't anything that made carbon monoxide as possible, but it still was a thing. Especially in caving. Heck, a lot of basements in the past had to deal with things like radon. How often was radon a problem in the past, before people knew what radon even was? Or heck, how often did people even run into anything radioactive? I mean, technically, I remember there was a woman, was her name Curie or something? She technically discovered, I think, polonium? Anyway, I think all of her clothes and furniture are still under lock and key, because technically she discovered radiation. She also died from it. And all of her belongings, even her notes and journals, are so contaminated that they're under lock and key until they, run the half-lives out. I mean, technically parts of Chernobyl are technically, off limits for good reason. There's also Fukushima and other places like that. I'm just like, how often was that really a thing, like, say, thousands of years ago? I mean, we weren't artificially making radioactive material, but, I mean, there are some naturally radioactive materials, and there is stuff like radon. So, I wonder how often radon became a problem in the past. I mean, because I remember, like, a few decades ago, it was a major problem for a lot of people in their basements where they had to get radon detectors, and, I remember there being some chemical that starts with a letter X, too. That's similar to radon, but I can't remember what that is. That was apparently a similar concern. But main thing is this: did us falling off the bridge somehow isolate us from this stuff? But even then, the fact that we're walking around here now either means, one, we're eventually going to succumb to what happened, or does that mean that when I was down there knocked out, whatever chemical came through that killed all the people has already dissipated, meaning I'm the only person alive? But with this smell, nobody would want to be walking around outside. Just what was this, anyway? There was no sound. I remember there was a movie about Higurashi made at 1.2, because there's lots of different storylines. But I remember there being a movie once that was made about where, like, the military did a lockdown Like before anyone died or anything bad happened, the military just came in and did a lockdown of the entire city, saying it was a major like pandemic issue. And like Keiichi's parents were like packing up the windows with packing tape in order to try to keep out whatever it is. But I mean, like, one. But then later you see them like go outside to try to stand in a line, crowded line of a bunch of people to get food and water, and I'm like, that kind of defeats the point. Oh, I didn't read the thing. Just what was this, anyone? Anyway, there was no sound, no noise, not even a breath. Hinamizawa was silent. The school would come into view right after turning this corner, and yet I couldn't hear any commotion at all. Or, here's the thing, since we know that we're actively suffering from Hinamizawa syndrome, could it be that the brain parasites that are, fucking with our brain, does that give me an immunity to whatever toxin was in the air, or is in the air? Like I said, we are in an open area, so maybe the mountains with the swamp would have allowed a logical scientific thing for some chemical to flood us, and I would have been safe from it from where I was. And then by the time I woke up and got out here, all of this stuff is, dissipated. Or it could be all the adrenaline from my injuries overriding stuff. I don't know. But I think maybe like whatever it is that killed all the people, which I'll probably find corpses everywhere. It could be that that's dissipated, and I was spared because I fell off the bridge. None of the shouts or grunts that children always made, and yet I couldn't hear any commotion at all. It was simply quiet. Just as pretending to ignore the silence had grown intolerable, I saw the school. And finally I heard something. It was the sound of a few trucks. There was a few very tall trucks parked in the schoolyard idling. About 10 workers in raincoats were unloading things from their trucks. It was hot and humid even in the casual clothing. I couldn't imagine how unbearable that must have been. And then I remembered, are those hazmat suits? Are they wearing hazmat suits? And then I remembered, our school was rented from the Forest Service field-built office building, wasn't it? It wasn't strange at all for forest trucks to be doing some kind of work in the schoolyard. In raincoats. They're in hazmat suits, right? It's not just a raincoat. Like a rain suit? Besides, what did forest rangers do anyway? I felt bad for them having to work in such heat, and with such a stench about. They were taking colorful cargo out of the truck and lining it up in squared. They were containers, fairly large ones inside of multicolored patchwork bags. Are you guys planting explosives? Heavy, too. They were being carried in pairs. They lined them up very neatly like tuna at the Riverside Fish Market. Several, dozens, hundreds of tuna were completely filling the fairly wide schoolyard up. I forgot my pain for a little while, captivated by this big forest ranger job I'd never seen before. As I stood there watching the days, the people in raincoats working on the other side noticed me. One of them pointed me out, and they shouted a few things back and forth. I thought they might yell at me for getting in their way, so I decided to leave post-haste. Yeah, sorry for bothering you. But then 2 trucks drove up behind me. I mean, even if your guys are like somehow a threat to me, it's honestly a miracle I'm even limping. I stepped aside and they entered the schoolyard. Sheets covered their trunks, but I could tell they were completely full. As they passed, there was an awful smell that made me want to choke. It wasn't the same burned egg smell as before, but an even worse one, like rotten crab meat. What on earth was it? I'd been enshrouded in one terrible stench after another all day. Then certain white letters emblazoned on the side of the passing trucks caught my eye. Ground Self-Defense Force. Oh, the military. What? The Self-Defense Forces? Like the Army? Why was the Army in the schoolyard? Hey, you! Where did you come from? That way. Suddenly someone slapped me on the shoulders. That hurts! Everything is broken! Can I have an Advil? Maybe a Pepsi with some ice. Shoulders from behind. I turned around and a canopied SDF Jeep was parked there. The SDF person had on a green raincoat and a gas... Okay, I think it should be gas mask, but it's like gas mask, like in the movies. Gas mask. Carrying a compressed air cylinder. He didn't look normal. There wasn't an inch of exposed skin anywhere. Where did I... Ow! When I tried to talk, I stretched a wound on my head. It made the SDF people exchange glances. I'm hurt and bleeding everywhere. I couldn't see their faces through their masks, but they seemed surprised. Do you live in Hinamizawa? Can you tell us your name and address? Well, yeah, I sort of live here. My name is Keiichi Mabura. Oh, and my address, Hinamizawa Village, Shishibone. After seeing me tell them my name and address without hesitation, one of the SDF people watching from the Jeep started talking into a radio. Base, do you read? Base, do you read? We have a 402 survivor discovered. I repeat, we have a 402. We've found a survivor. He's in front of the Forest Service office. This is Base. We copy. Secure the survivor at once. That shouldn't be hard. I'm crippled and in a lot of pain. What is his status? He has very many owies. Healthy my ass! I mean, granted, I'm not, puking or something, but I can see my bones. I don't think just drinking extra milk will fix this. Wounded all over, but not fatally. Can I have a Red Bull? And a Tylenol? But not fatally. He can walk on his own. Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. We'll send him to HQ for safety. I don't have to walk there, do I? I can, ride in a car? I was prepared to go along with the police, but the SDF... I couldn't help but think it seemed a little bit much. They urged me to the back of the Jeep, and then they told me to put on the gigantic gas mask. I mean, I guess, but at this point, wouldn't I have already been exposed to whatever's happening? Is it still there? What is happening? Or is it a gradual thing that's and I'm not aware that it's grabbing a gradual effect on me, and you're gonna let me get good air again so I can... I did so, and one of the troops fiddled around with it, strapping it tightly to me. Thank you! I don't know if you can hear me through the mask, but thank you. It was heavy, hard to see out of, hot and difficult to breathe. Just looking at the world through the lenses made it lose its sense of reality. My breathing sounded like some giant monster through the mask. At this point, I had no idea what was happening. With much trepidation, I asked the trooper adjusting my mask, excuse me, has something happened? Where were you? What were you doing? Hey, don't answer a question with more questions. I was the one asking you. I, fell from a rope bridge way back in the mountains. I think I passed out on the riverbed. I don't actually know what day it is. Today is June 22nd, 1983. I don't remember what day I fell from the bridge. Is that the same day? Wednesday. I don't remember what day it was. But I'm pretty sure Keiichi's going to let me know. That surprised me. Satoko pushed me off the bridge on Tuesday, the 20th. So I've been laying there, and since I thought it was only a couple hours, that means technically I've been laying there unconscious for at least, I would say 26, 27 hours. I'm probably hungry. Imagine if my metabolism was really good, I could just eat and then instantly heal. That meant I'd been asleep on that riverbed for an entire day. Forgive me for asking again, but did something happen? Why is the SDF here? Is this a drill? Had my question been that difficult for him? None of the troopers would answer me. The one in the driver's seat, talking on his own radio, turned on the vehicles. He turned the dial and some broadcast station or another came in. I started to listen to the voice of a radio announcer I was familiar with. Okay, I know this sounds like a really weird and unethical question, but you know what I was saying about the swamp thing? What would technically happen if you found a very, very deep swamp? I don't know how deep swamps are, but if by swamp standards, whatever would be the deepest swamp that's technically a swamp that's on the surface. What would happen if you put a nuclear warhead at the very bottom of a swamp and then it exploded? Like, imagine a very deep, very large swamp. Or what inside a volcano? Or a lake. Probably ruin the lake. That'd be sad. Lakes are good. Okay, main point is this. I'm just saying a swamp being, a swamp. Or, I know they've buried bombs before in soil and they've blown them up underwater or in space. But have we ever, I don't know, a mile underneath the desert, with sand? Granted, it's not loose sand the whole way, but still, you know what I mean. Technically, sand becomes glass if you heat it, so hypothetically, if you were to have a nuclear bomb go off in an area with a large amount of sand, would it leave a large amount of glass? How would that work? But back to the swamp thing, what would happen to the, would it just be vaporized? Would it somehow affect things? Have we ever tested that? I assume it's an unethical test. Huh. What's the deepest subway system that exists? The FBI is like, what the fuck is happening? I'm like, don't worry, FBI. I have no access to anything remotely explosive. I'm just mainly asking for scientific reasons. It's curious. What would it look like from an infrared satellite? Whatever would be the deepest, say LA, whatever the deepest spot of the LA subway system. If there was a nuke that went off inside there, and even then there's different levels of nukes. You have suitcase nukes, you have atomic bombs. And keep in mind, a hydrogen bomb, even the weakest actual nuclear bomb that we have nowadays, even the weakest one that we have ready for military deployment, well, most of them usually have 3 or 4 warheads attached to them. But each individual warhead is, even the weakest one, is 100 times stronger than the bomb at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I guess the main thing I'm trying to say there is, I hope there is, while I do wonder it for scientific reasons, I sincerely hope no actual nuclear bomb ever goes off, or, I hope a hydrogen bomb never gets used on a city, because, honestly, the amount of devastation that would cause would make Hiroshima and Nagasaki look like nothing, because the fucking scale of that explosion is, even for people that are fully capable of comprehending how much damage and life lost was from the atomic bomb Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I don't think even the people capable of understanding that could even begin to really comprehend how much death and suffering would happen from a hydrogen bomb. But at the same time, I kind of feel like it's just sort of, it's going to happen. It's kind of unavoidable. There's so many of them out there. And I kind of feel like some of the people in charge of those things might not have the same degree of empathy and compassion that I do. They might be more willing to actually use such a thing. Just saying, whenever that day comes, because I feel it's inevitable, I feel it would probably be most devastating loss of life in a single day to ever occur in the history of the human race. And I can only hope, if such a thing were to occur, that we don't find a way to somehow have an even worse day down the line where even... But I'm just saying... I would say this. At least I think the limit is 30 massive hydrogen bombs going off across the world. Technically, we'd avoid any environmental problems. Everyone's like, what do you mean? Obviously, yes, the cities that they would blow up in would be very much obliterated and lots of radiation and stuff, but I'm saying on a global scale. I'm saying 30 to 40 shouldn't affect the global weather. Now, I think maybe 112 would be the minimum needed to cause a couple year long nuclear winter. Now, obviously, if a couple thousand went off around here and there, we might deal with stuff on the level of the Fallout games, not only in terms of loss of life, but also global climate. I mean, it wouldn't be the end of the human race or the planet, but I would definitely say that we would probably have, honestly, I don't know if we'd have the giant mosquitoes and things out of Fallout, but we would definitely have, I would say, the same weather and same, you know, forestry conditions. I mean, basically, we'd lose a lot of plants, maybe have a couple of decades of actual nuclear winter, and it'd probably screw up a lot of electronics. Though, I suppose the Fallout games kind of remind me of something. You know, like there's like those giant mosquitoes and things that run around, or the death claws. It kind of reminds me of the Final Fantasy games. Because all the Final Fantasy games have things like that running around. Like think about each of the individual little normal monsters you run across that you level grind on in like Final Fantasy VIII. Imagine a world where those things actually existed. And here's a giant dragon turtle. Here's a horse with like curved razor blades on its head. Here's a mosquito the size of a motorcycle. I mean, a lot of those things, like I feel like if there was even one of those species that actually existed on Earth, I feel like it would be very devastating for humans. Like, even if we all had some degree of superpowers, I feel like it would be an extremely dangerous world. Like I would say maybe some of the things that exist in Final Fantasy are probably more dangerous than dinosaurs. Then again, dinosaurs are also a thing too, so. Heck, imagine if dragons were actually going around. That'd be a little concerning. I started listening to the voice of a radio announcer I was familiar with. Was conducted at the Prime Minister's office. In regards to the questions from the press that the SDF not responding to the disaster promptly was directly related to the unprecedented, unheard of catastrophe, Chief Cabinet Secretary Okuno had this to say. And so I believe that once the SDF received the dispatch order from the prefectural governor, they responded promptly. According to him, the SDF was prompt to respond to the crisis after receiving their orders. He implied that it was the prefecture's responsibility for taking too long to comprehend the situation. When did the governor who requested the SDF's dispatch actually become aware of the outbreak of such an unprecedented catastrophe? And did he not invite further damage because of the time lost before he sent the request for disaster relief? In other words, because of the bureaucracy. We are awaiting further investigation into the matter. This kind of reminds me of bureaucracy in general in a lot of situations does kind of suck. It consumes a lot of resources, a lot of red tape. But there are some situations where bureaucracy is good. I think all things, it's an issue of moderation. Technically, yes, bureaucracy can become a hotbed of corruption and waste and put a lot of extra tax burden on the people. That being said, there is a purpose and use for bureaucracy. And heck, I remember Freelance Astronauts like a decade and a half ago doing a Let's Play of the original Mass Effect game. And they were talking about a lot of the lore. And one of the things that came up was, initially when the Turians discovered the humans, they decided to go to war with them. And then the rest of the council races were like, hey, what are you doing? And it's like, oh yeah, we found these people. It's crazy. They're new. We're going to kill them all. And it's like, no. We have proper channels. We need paperwork, and we need to figure out who and what these people are and talk to them. So that was kind of a situation where the yellow tape and bureaucracy actually, ended the war and saved humanity. Or the Turians, men who would actually win in that situation. But either way, there was a lot of lives saved either way. So I'm just saying, bureaucracy can be a good thing. It's just, unfortunately, a lot of people, it can become corrupt and can become a burden on the society it's supposed to serve. But all things in moderation. A bureaucracy in moderation, I think, is actually beneficial for a society. So it's all moderation. Like, technically, bureaucracy should never become strong enough that it's its own, like, branch of the government. It should just be a supplement to help the government and the rest of society function. But it should never be too powerful. But in general, bureaucracy is good, but perhaps should be limited. But should still have some amount of authority and power. It's just the question is, how do you balance that? And the answer is, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a politician. We are awaiting further investigation of the matter. That was Mr. Okada reporting from the Prime Minister's official residence. At this point, we can take another look at the political response following this disaster. In the middle of the night, between June 21st and June 22nd... Okay, so I was definitely unconscious. Honestly, I'm surprised I didn't drown. Also, this music is really good. A large-scale disaster broke out in Hinamizawa Village, Shishibone. The details have not yet been investigated, but there was an eruption of volcanic gas from somewhere in Hinamizawa area, probably in the swamp. The gas was relatively heavy, and as it spewed out, it began to flow. The flow went down along a small river, but I was in that river, and headed directly in Hinamizawa Village. After a few hours, it had covered the entire region. It happened in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock to 4 a.m. Okay, I know this is unrelated, but here's the question. Technically, this game starts off with the idea of them wanting to build a dam project, right? 1. If they had gone ahead with the dam project, would that have prematurely released this natural disaster? Or 2, if they had gone ahead with the dam project and had no effect on it, would it A, have prevented this from occurring at all, let alone the people being here to die from it? Or, what would have happened in the situation the dam was built, but this happened anyway? It happened in the middle of the night, 2 to 4 a.m. Every home and household in the village was afflicted. With most of the residents asleep, it is thought that all died without noticing the crisis. I mean, that would make sense, because here's the thing. You are most susceptible to probably suffocate from gas in your sleep. Because at least if you're awake, yes, your body needs more oxygen to function, but you're at least aware of the changes occurring. You may function with some confusion, but one big thing is this. You're standing up and walking around. I like the music. The catastrophe striking in the middle of the night caused its detection to come too late, but there was still one small opportunity to have noticed it. 3 a.m. A new news dealer shop in Okinomiya sent a vehicle carrying the morning newspaper to its branch in Hinamizawa. Usually the shop would be contacted upon the vehicle's arrival, but this morning that didn't happen. The news dealer's shop made repeated calls but got no response. The shopkeeper sent his eldest son to check on things, but they lost contact with him as well. It is extremely regrettable. If they had contacted the police or fire department at this point, it is highly possible the situation would have turned out more positively. At the very least, it's possible that a portion of the village might have been saved from tragic annihilation. 6 a.m. Residents in areas in the same region began continuously calling 119 to report the smell of rotten eggs, dizziness, nausea, and headaches. The fire department received the same reports, all from the same confined region. They speculated a truck loaded with chemicals may have gotten into an accident and reported it to local police. 6:30 a.m. The contact was lost to a patrol car on duty in Hinamizawa area after the officer reported the smell of rotten eggs. The local police considered the possibility of a large-scale disaster involving highly lethal gas and reported it to the prefecture and prefectural police at 7:15 a.m. 8 a.m. The governor was traveling to nearby prefectures for inspection, so in accordance with regulations, the prefectural environmental disaster prevention chief was provisionally escalated to director general and set up a disaster countermeasures office. However, without contacting the governor, the countermeasures came too late. As has recently been pointed out by citizens groups, his trips with the honorary Diet members to inspect other prefectures was based solely on good relations, and it's rumored they preoccupied themselves with a drinking party. Sources closer to him claimed the governor had been drinking all night and had gone to sleep in a drunken state. He was completely drunk when the environmental chief phoned him as well, and apparently he could not get him to pay any attention to the matter. And so it took about an hour for the governor to sober up, gain an understanding of the situation, and gather information. Though not as extreme as the governor's case, the environmental chief, who became director general in the governor's absence, will likely be questioned about his negligence. In addition, without any procedures in place on the prefecture's side that predicted catastrophes this massive, they would always react too late, and that ended up being fatal. 9:12 a.m. On the advice of the prefectural police, the governor requested a disaster relief mission from the SDF. By the time the Chemical Defense Unit, equipped with protective equipment, arrived on the scene, 8 hours later already passed since the incident's outbreak. Whatever the case may be, it was unfortunate this happened while everyone was sleeping in the middle of the night. Had the same disaster occurred during the day, it would likely have been entirely different. All households in the Hinamizawa region were wiped out. There were over 1,000 victims. The SDF is still confirming the situation on the ground, but the results are predicted to only increase that number. Here with us, in the studio today, is Dr. Fujiwara, a professor at university who is well acquainted with volcanic disasters. Doctor, can such a sudden and horrible outburst of poisonous gas actually happen? Well, I mean, technically, while Japan doesn't have any major eruptions occur that I'm aware of, they do have a decent amount of earthquakes, and they are kind of by the ring of fire, at the Pacific Ocean tectonic plates. So technically they are at risk of, but I don't think there's been any major volcanic eruptions that have been, devastating to a city. If I'm mistaken, let me know in the comments. It isn't at all unusual for this to happen right around craters, at least. Japan is a volcanic nation, and so has many active volcanoes. Yes, I know that. I know Japan has many active volcanoes, but I'm fairly certain that the people who do the city planning in Japan have actually, done a very good job of planning around that. So I don't think there's any major cities next to any active volcanoes, and or at least, and obviously they're monitoring that stuff. So while earthquakes might be a common thing, I don't think there's any cities built next to major volcanoes. I think Japan's pretty on top of that. I feel like they're perhaps probably the best people in the world when it comes to understanding that stuff. There's always a danger of hazardous gas around any of these craters, and it's generally a rule among the mountain climbers not to go near them. Does this mean that the rotten egg smell that visited Hinamizawa was the normal sort of gas in volcanic craters? Judging by how it smelled like rotten eggs, we think it was hydrogen sulfide, a gas seen particularly frequent in accidents compared to other volcanic gases. I know this is an odd question, especially since it'd be considered a bit volatile, but can we actually use hydrogen sulfide for anything? Is there anything that's functionally used by humans for? If it's dense, it becomes extremely dangerous. Hinamizawa village is far away from the craters of any volcanoes. Can hydrogen sulfide be generated from a place not close to... Is it the swamp? I don't know all the details, so I can't say anything concrete, but in other countries there are records of gas eruptions due to magma buildup under hot springs. I mean, technically swamps could be hot springs, just clogged ones? Air quotes? Question mark? It's an extremely rare event, but it is possible for such a thing to happen in a region not near craters. Well, I mean, there's many underground vents, so they would lead to some places. Thank you very much, Doctor. We appear to have an announcement from Japan's Defense Agency. Miss Morikawa, are you there? Yes, I'm at the Japan Defense Agency. The agency has just made an announcement regarding the source of Hinamizawa Village gas disaster. Analysis from the Ground Self-Defense Forces Department of Chemistry has found that the gas was a mixture of carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide. Ms. Morikawa, do you know whether the gas is still erupting or spreading to nearby areas? According to the SDF's 9th Division, who are currently engaged in a rescue operation at Hinamizawa Village, the gas density is steadily decreasing. They've announced that the damage will not spread. However, it does not change the fact that the surrounding areas are still in danger, and that very strict observation must be maintained. That was Morikawa from the Japan Defense Agency. And now we have a report on the state of those who have been made to evacuate the Okonomiya area. Shinozaki Elementary School is one of the evacuation sites, and we currently have a reporter on Buzz. Hey, I wonder if Shion's still alive. Obviously, everyone in town is dead. So, my parents are dead. Satoko's dead. More than likely, Mion and Rena are dead. The teacher's dead. But Shion lives in Okonomiya. So, technically, shouldn't Shion be alive? Also, am I gonna still die from Hinamizawa syndrome? Or did, like, hitting my head really hard in that fucking river, like, fix that? Do concussions fix Hinamizawa syndrome, or, I don't know, kind of drowning off a bridge? You guys remember Final Fantasy IX? Or how about the movie Final Fantasy Spirits Within? It was like a VHS tape. It's like early 2000s. We currently have a reporter on. Wait. What? Inside the jeep, clambering and bouncing along the road, rough road, none answered my muttered question. An unprecedented catastrophe had destroyed Hinamizawa in a single night? Where was Hinamizawa Village anyway? Someplace deep in the mountains, right? Names of places I had heard about on the radio were always like that. They were all places I'd never heard of, much less knew the locations of. Wiped out? What does that mean? Don't they usually say how many died? And how many were injured? They did say 1,000 people. And how many people were alive? Where did everyone evacuate to? You remember that setting where they said they didn't have, like, time? Eventually, we came into view of Coach's clinic. For the first time, I saw the flag of Japan hanging on a pole outside. Japan's circular sun hung down as though exhausted. Many SDF tents were set up in the clinic's big parking lot, and many strict security vehicles were parked there as well. When they saw the jeep coming, men in white clothing and gas masks came running out of the clinic, frantic, carrying a stretcher. You're going to be alright. How do you feel? I could use a Red Bull. Can you walk? I can limp. Yes. Ow. Ow. And because of my ows, they forced me to lay down the stretcher. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it would definitely go faster if you guys carried me. Otherwise, you got to listen to me bitch the whole way as I limp there. People who seemed like doctors were looking at me and notifying others of my condition via radio. Multiple wounds. High possibility of fractures and internal damage. Large laceration on the head. Pupils normal, but even without bleeding from the fundus, brain damage is still possible. Probably. And then from the clinic entrance, people lying on stretchers were brought outside to replace me. Judging by their clothing, they were from Hinamizawa, and that's how I knew they were victims. They brought the stretchers in front of a truck. Two troops holding shoulders and legs like some kind of baggage picked them up and threw them into the... Are they dead? What? In the trunk of the truck. People's bodies piled in heaps. They were just like baggage, and that told me they were already nothing but shells. At that moment, I remembered all those colorful sacks filling the trunks, and them lined up in the schoolyard like a fish market. Hundreds of empty shells. Corpses. 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 Okay, how many times am I going to say it? You jackasses, don't just throw the victims in like that. They lived here. The troops carrying the sacks answered me with a humble salute. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. The world didn't need this insane version of Hinamizawa. Wait a minute. Did we wish for this? We did kind of wish that this world Hinamizawa would fade away, didn't we? Did we wish for the entire city to die? Is that technically what happened? We really have to be careful with that. To be fair, I did think I was going to die, so I did not expect to. A lot of this has been a very unexpected circumstance. The world didn't need this insane version of itself. My final wish. Again, it was granted. We gotta be careful how we use our fucking death note, man. I didn't understand anything anymore. None of it mattered. I wished, I cursed, and then it happened the next day. Then please, tomorrow morning, let me die. That insane night is still going on. Please, please end it already. Well, that was a poor decision. Hey, he's lost consciousness. Shout his name, quickly. Mabura-kun, can you hear me? If you can hear me, just blink. Mabura-kun, Mabura-kun. Suddenly, the world didn't matter to me anymore. I wasn't interested in their cries. His breathing stopped. Get his respiratory tract open. Use CPR. I mean, technically, Shion might still be alive. I mean, maybe it'd be worth it to stay alive to go say hi to Shion? Make him live. Damn it. I mean, I'm glad you guys care. No more. No more dead people. Nobody deserves to die. Thank you, Doctor Who. The Peter Capaldi one. Best one, by the way. Don't kill him. Who are you talking to? Don't kill him. What, does somebody personally know me? I can hear the voice of a man crying, screaming in my ears. Nobody deserves to die. Those words came from his heart. They were so commonplace, and they soaked into my heart, too. Maybe it was a mistake to take someone's life, even if it was to save Satoko. If this was the price I had to pay, this horrible tragedy, then this is a little much, Oyashiro-sama. Why? Why did you never punish me? Come to think of it, Satoko said something. Oyashiro-sama's actual curse never goes to the target first, but kills everyone they love before that. Oyashiro-sama's curse. It was a convenient excuse I told myself at the very end, but it wasn't my curse that destroyed it. But Oyashiro-sama's. Given that I was in a stretcher, this next bit might have been obvious. But last of all, I realized one thing. Yeah. Today, I had not heard those footsteps following me. Even once. And now, I was liberated. As the cries of the Higurashi I couldn't have been hearing filled my mind. Their tearful ensemble was the only funeral march I had. A widespread disaster occurred in Mizawa village. Volcanic gas, carbon dioxide, hydrogen sulfide erupted from Honokafushi Swamp, one of Himizawa's underwater sources, spread throughout the entire village. There were 1,200 victims, 20 have gone missing. The catastrophe was unprecedented, forcing local governments to evacuate approximately 600,000 people. According to later investigation, magma pools and hot springs were uncovered directly under Honokafushi Swamp. The gas that gushed out from it was determined to be the cause of the disaster. In addition, directly after the incident broke out, many came forth claiming this disaster was a curse based on Hinazawa legends, first sparking a wave of chaos. There were apparently local legends of a curse spreading a miasma, destroying the village. I mean, technically, if this were to occur in the past, I mean, that would... Oh, I didn't get to read that! There apparently were local legend of curse destroying village scholars believe similar gas tests may have happened in the past and remain part of these legends. More extreme periodicals suggest this was an extension of a string freak death incidents that has been happening in recent years in Himizawa village, stirring the interest in these theories and the curse Oishiro-sama. In addition, relatives of those in Himizawa village who have been escaped the disaster complained of sickness afterward and were hospitalized. Some of them even died of unknown causes, further encouraging such extreme opinions. Okay, so Shion died anyway. On top of that, several relatives, professing to be possessed by Ueshiro's curse, committed suicide in strange ways, and the impact of the disaster has had on the entire nation can no longer be ignored. Wild visions of terrible toxic gas, sneaking around in the middle of the night killing people, spilled across the country, causing a steady stream of people complaining about insomnia, difficulty breathing, headaches, dizziness. Some who identified themselves as being obsessed by it began doing odd things. Most of these were mistakenly attributed to the tabloid presses, but afterwards some of them began to call the mental issues arising from the Himizawa tragedy the Himizawa syndrome. The Himizawa village region, the object of all kinds of rumors and speculation, is currently closed off, and even flying overhead is prohibited. The prohibition was at one point undone as a result of decreased gas density, but that autumn another gas burst was confirmed, leading to the area a big cordon off again. Word is the area is still sound asleep, all traces of former life intact. Didn't get to read that. Only one survivor remains, Keiichi Mabura. Did I actually still live? And left to rot. Who lived at the time of rescue had some trouble breathing due to fluid buildup in his lungs. But as a result of life-saving procedures, he was kept alive. He is currently in General Hospital somewhere in the prefecture. The press has been asking for him for some time, but all interviews are being refused. What did he see in Himizawa? What happened between June 21st and June 22nd in Himizawa village? Today he remains unwilling to speak of it. So, did we ever seek out Shion, or if there anybody was alive? I tried my best to read that. Okay. Possibly Mio strangled to death in the mountains. Oishi went missing. Investigation continues. Went missing. Ire committed suicide. Rika possibly murdered. Himizawa gas disaster list. Died. Okay, Mion died. Oryu. Satoko. Okay. Went missing. Tepe is missing. Ichiro. I can't read this fast. I didn't see a Mabura anywhere. Shion committed fuck. Keiichi Mabura attempted suicide. But we're still alive. Said attempted. Diagnosed severe. I can't read this fast. Living his days in peace. Okay, now we're at credits. So at least the official story is Keiichi lives. But we never actually went home. And Satoko may have lived. Maybe she ran away from Himizawa. Here's the thing. If the welfare office had come and got her before this point, would she at least been out of the city? Everyone else would have died anyway. Was she able to run away? 2003. This is 20 years later. An elderly couple living in the Osaka prefecture discovered a cassette tape while organizing the possessions of their son, who passed away 8 years ago. Their son went missing when his fishing boat capsized in 1995. He was 47 at the time of his death. 8 years later, in 2003, they had begun to organize their son's remains in order to organize their minds. Came across the cassette tape in question. From 1975 to 1989. The deceased had experience working as a journalist for photography periodical, and this tape is thought to have been created during that time. The label on the tape read, Keiichi Mabura, 11/28, So that's be November. So it'll be late June. So July, August, September, October, November. 5 months later. Okay, so this is 5 months after the Hinamizawa disaster. It is thought the tape was recorded during an interview with Keiichi Maebara, the only survivor of the Great Hinamizawa disaster that occurred in June of 1983. The only person who lived through the disaster, shrouded in mystery. Many interested parties attempted to question him, but he never once spoke physically to anyone in any public place. Therefore, the tape caused quite a stir, possibly being of extremely high value. Click. It's really hard to talk about stuff when I know I'm being recorded. Please don't worry about it. Here, it won't be a problem if I do this, right? After this, the sound quality dramatically decreases. Did he cover the recording device or something? Then let's get started. Here's my first question. Keiichi-kun, where were you the night of the great disaster? I had gone behind the shrine, then took a path through the woods for a while. There's a rope bridge there. A little while before you get into the mountains. I fell from there and lost consciousness. Did this happen during the night of the disaster? It actually happened like in the afternoon. The sun was still up. No, it was the morning of the 21st. Oh, it was that early in the day. Wow. I thought more time had passed. It was the morning of 21st on Tuesday, which means I woke up the afternoon of the next day. I think I was out for a day and a half. Why on earth were you there? I mean, I'm sure everyone wants to know, but the bridge you fell from that day, a weekday, I might add, was quite far from both your house and your school, wasn't it? Speaking frankly, there are some who say you knew of the great disaster beforehand and fell from that rope bridge as you were trying to flee the village. This isn't a joke. Please don't be so arbitrary about this. I think it's a terrible thing to say, too. Please don't be offended. Anyway, about the rope bridge you fell from. It was right here on the map, right? The rope bridge beyond the back of the shrine and through the path in the woods? Probably. I never went over there, so I can't say for sure. Ha ha ha. I guess I just want to know why you were out somewhere you'd never been before on a weekday morning. And then, what about the riverbed you fell unconscious on? Have you heard the rumors about that being impossible? Impossible. That word again. Again. For a little while, Keiichi Maebara mutters the word impossible several times. Why would it be impossible? You know how the volcanic gas originated in the Onogufushi swamp? Some scholars did some pretty delicate simulations and modeling and discovered something very interesting. The volcanic gas was heavier than the air, so it went along the ground, flowing into the lower and lower places, kind of like what water does, and with Onogufushi swamp as its source, they were able to test how much time it would take for the gas to erupt and spread across the whole village. So, well, that riverbed you were unconscious on, the gas, it would have flowed down there. I don't really understand what you're getting at. In other words, if you were really passed out on the riverbed, you would have been in the middle of all the toxic gas that was spreading everywhere that night. That means there was no chance you could have been passed out there. Allow me to be a little more frank. I think that maybe you might be telling a lie. During the great disaster, you were hiding in a safe place, keeping an eye out for the gas got thinner, then repaired, and were secured by the SDF. How about that? Is that right on the mark? For a short time, the journalist presses Keiichi Maebara further in a teasing way, but all that can be heard is our heavy sighs. Even if that was the case, I wouldn't be surprised at this point. What do you mean, you wouldn't be surprised? Was this recording really taken of Keiichi Maebara? Some harbor suspicions. You said it before, didn't you? That it was impossible. Impossible things happen in the Hinamizawa all the time. There are people who shouldn't exist. Dead people end up alive. It's not really that unusual. Never thought I, of all people, would be asked to prove that I was still alive when I was supposed to have died. Ha 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 ha. The journalist and Keiichi Maebara both laughed for a while. To verify his authenticity, I had others in Maebara family check tapes. Who is alive? With his voice, however, the sound was not clear, and much of the time had passed, so relatives had checked who couldn't remember what he sounded like. I was able to gain positive proof it was actually Keiichi Maebara's voice. Alright then, I'll change the subject. What do you think about the debate about whether this disaster was a curse, the 5th year of the serial freak death incidents in Hinamizawa? I don't think it was. It was the curse that year, after all. Huh? I was the curse that year, after all. Uh-huh. What do you mean? What do I was just answering the question. Doubts also remain regarding the date 11/28 written on the tape. The curse. Well, You probably won't believe me when I tell you this. I was the one who caused it. I was the one who wished for the whole village to die, and it happened. Ah ha ha ha, what an exciting story. Exciting, I suppose you could call that. After Mabura failed to suicide attempt on a certain August day, 2 months after the disaster, he was diagnosed with mental disorder and transported to a treatment facility. I was the one who killed Takano-san, and Coach, and Oishi too. At the time, I had some kind of divine power. Yes, I suppose it was like footsteps. Footsteps? Wait. What's that supposed to mean? Have you ever heard footsteps before? Tip-tap, click-clack, click-click, coo-coo-coo? The facility never allowed any news coverage, so it is extremely unlikely the tape from the media dated after August 1983 would have had his voice on it. Today, when you're walking around, try stopping suddenly. Something interesting will happen. Anyway, if you hear an extra footstep, even though you already stopped walking, you'd better be careful, you know? Hoo-hoo? Ha ha ha. Yeah, yes, I'll be careful. Ha ha. Is that what I'm saying? Is what I'm saying really that funny to you? However, the reporter had been criticized for his forceful methods of collecting data while he was active, so there is still a possibility that he broke into the facility and forced Keiichi Mabura to talk. You've been doing nothing but laugh in my face this whole time. You're just like Coach. You pretend to sympathize with me, to listen to what I have to say, but your eyes are telling me you think I'm a lunatic. Ha ha, that's not true. Ha ha, no, I can tell. Your eyes are the same as Coach's. Is this truly Keiichi Mabura's voice? The authenticity of the recording is still wrapped in mystery. I never heard the footsteps again after that day, so I don't think I have that terrible power anymore. Perhaps right here, right now, I'll wish for you to die. I'll wish for your death, for saying all these unpleasant things. Yes, this time, why don't I decide how you die? Takano-san was burned to death, so let's go with the opposite, with water. I hope you drown and die. How's that? 15 years later after this tape was created, the reporter, just as Keiichi Mabura predicted, died in an accident out at sea. If I'm in top form like I was then, you'd die before tomorrow morning for sure. Now then, I wonder how many days it will take you to drown. Hoo-hoo-ha-ha. You'd better be careful, you know. Don't go getting yourself killed by some stupid curse I put on you. Okay? Ha 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 ha. The recording ends in the middle of Keiichi Mabura's laughter. And Keiichi Mabura and later on 2 days after the interview, he suddenly died from high fever, cause unknown. Records remain of the strange words he kept giving after pressing the call button the day before he died. An extra set of footsteps. A new scenario has been unlocked. Play extra. The Great Hinabizawa Disaster. Learned what happened next. All cast review session. Thank you very much for enjoying Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 3, Tatarigoroshi. You guys remember Nightmare Before Christmas? Boys and girls of every age, wouldn't you like to see something strange? Come with us and you will see, in this town of Hinamazawa. I just feel like everything, like every time we part in these after party little scenes, I just say to everyone, hey, maybe we can meet again in another life. Who out there has played the original Mario games? Granted, Lost Levels is pretty good too. But I would say Mario 1, Mario 3, and Super Mario World. Who played them? I'm assuming Mario World was on the Super Nintendo. But who played the original Mario and Mario 3 on the NES? And I mean back on the... Granted, if you played it any amount away, like even emulator or whatever, or a digital version you downloaded on like some modern version of Nintendo. But has anyone actually played it on the NES? Then again, I imagine there's a lot of people out there that don't remember a lot of things from the past. Like, do you guys remember what a Blockbuster is? Or dial-up internet? Or a time... Like, hell, I remember a time before the internet existed. I remember a time before cell phones. I remember VCRs. You guys remember Sega Genesis? How did you like it? It had a different sort of atmosphere than the previous chapters. I would be happy if you enjoyed it. Hee hee? A bad end again. The type which we're so fond of, huh? Personally, I wanted to get a scene of the gas coming in, the villagers spasming and foaming at the mouth one by one before dying. Do you all think so too? Of course I do not think so. Again! It happened again! A huge bad end. Coo. Ha ha ha. Ha. Michan, you sure seem to be happy about the bad end. Well, it's more like we can all honestly do at this point is laugh. Nyaha. The terrible endings have been escalating through each chapter, and they finally reached a culmination, I suppose. Everyone died together as friends. Kind of. As friends. Nipa! I guess you could say that. I die every time, though, and I'm a little tired of it. It'd be nice to have an ending where I didn't die once in a while. Tomotaki-san, you're kind of like a news reporter. When you die, it's like, oh, we're in the second half now. Kind of. That is a terrible role to have, buddy. Wahaha, everyone's just laughing. Like, damn it, guys. Okay. Now, here are all the new character portraits that debuted in this chapter. Everyone give a big round of applause. First is Coach Airi Kiyosuke-san. I'm honored to have your introduction. Hello there. I was a minor character, but having a full portrait like this makes me really feel important. It's true. You had too many appearances and too much dialogue to be a minor character this time. Ha 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 ha, I don't know if I'll appear in the next scenario, so please root for me. Thank you very much. Next up, we have Chie-sensei, who has been around since Chapter 1, but never had a portrait until now. Hello there, everyone. They've had me appear in school scenes ever since the first chapter, but for whatever reason, I didn't have my own portrait. I wonder why. I assume that at the time of this game being made, I assume that the developer of the game probably just hadn't finalized decision on how her final look would be. Speaking of which, there's something else we'll need to check as well. Yes, I wonder. Oh, someone give Chie-sensei a seat, please. Okay, now everybody is here. Rena, you can do the honors again. Okay, everyone, please pick up the cup nearest to you on the table. There are plenty of different drinks. These after parties have gotten really live. I do like the after parties. They're like, it's nice that after everything kind of went to shit and everything's all depressing and scary, it's nice to have the happy, cheerful thing where everyone's just like chill. I like this. How many do we have here now? Including us, I think there are about 10 people. Now we finally have the same number of minors and adults. We can all drink without being ashamed. Speaking of beer, how is it that something so delicious when cold turns so bad when warm? One of the 7 wonders of the world, I say. I mean, the same is true about Pepsi. Pepsi's great when it's fresh and cold, but once it's flat and warm, it's undrinkable. Hee. I wonder why. Okay, I'll pour some beer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, huh? There were 6 adults here. Meep. I would like the foamy barley tea as well. Rika-chan, you can't drink. She's 1,000 years old. Let her drink. Anyway, Rena-san, let's get this moving. Well, okay. Can I have everyone's attention, please? Alright, everyone. Excellent work on Tatarigoroshi chapter. Cheers! Cheers! Yay! Clap, 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 clap. Okay then, let's get down to our traditional plot discussion. Still though, this chapter just confused us yet again. Well, if anyone has an opinion, please raise your hand. Wow, everyone's being so discreet. No hands? Then why don't I break the ice? Oh, excuse me, could you change the music, please? To something a little more mysterious. Yeah, that's good. The mood has been set. Alright, Takano-san, take it away. I think that just by poring over the Tatarigoroshi story, the mystery won't be revealed. I know what you mean. Obviously, that's how the stories have been set up. Was there something like that in particular? I don't know if I'm right, but in Okinakushi, when Mabura-kun was eating in the restaurant, Oishi-san, Sonozaki-san found out, and it was a little mysterious, right? It was certainly mysterious just in Okinakushi, but after reading Watanagashi, a few things made a lot of sense. When I mentioned restaurant with cute uniforms during the story, it must have meant Angel Mort. And Angel Mort is owned by the Sonozaki family, so someone who knew Kei-chan was there too, and told me. It actually makes sense, a good amount of sense, right? That's what we mean. There are subtle differences in Higurashi stories, but I think there are 3 facets that are same for each. The character settings, for example. I was scary in Onikakushi, but that wasn't only because it was Onikakushi. It was because my character was the exact same in all 3 stories. Is that it? I agree with the characters being exactly the same. The most extreme case being me dying in the same way in the same place every time. No matter which story it is, you always die on the same day. There's a scene where, during Watanagashi, Takano-san and Tomataka-san sneak into the ritual in the storehouse. The same scene may have still happened in other stories, even though it wasn't portrayed. I think it still happened, save for a few events like the weather the day of the festival, what we did in the club, and Satoko's uncle coming home. It's almost the same. Which means we have a bunch more questions. The stories are told in exactly the same environment each time. Why did they end up being so different? If we think in a general sound novel type way, Sometimes the story branches depending on choices, right? So like if with Tatarigoroshi you had given the doll to my sister, an unavoidable bad end from a choice so early on, that's pretty scary. Well, and Tatarigoroshi, maybe whether you decide to kill my uncle or not. Do I ever get to play the versions of the story where I get to make those choices? I think it was the way before that. I think it branched back when the uncle's lover disappeared because of some trouble that he returned to Misawa. Then that was the first branch known to Kikuchi. I think it was when I appeared and started talking about the serial freak death incidents related to Oyashiro-sama's curse. I gotta blow my nose. 1 minute. I'm back. Sorry about that. That feels much better. You know, I just thought of something. If Keiichi-san gave the doll to Mion-san, and if Oishi-san and my uncle hadn't appeared, would we not have spent our time in peace without anything happening? I see. Satogo's gotten right to the point. You're right. You can say that again. So is that going to be the next story arc? You know, Oishi-san retires early, never shows up to Hinamizawa. I start dating Mion, and your uncle, has a heart attack before ever coming back. I don't know if Shion still appears in the story or anyone else. But yeah, how about that be the next story arc, where we just have a nice slice of life anime without the slice and more of the life? Then maybe we should pray Oishi-san and her uncle don't show up in this dark story. And then if we can prevent Sasaki-san from getting in a bad mood, everyone will be happy. Okay, so all I gotta do is keep her happy. Keiichi and Mion will just exchange a bunch of stuffed animals and sex and play Super Mario World and have a lot of fun. And Oishi will retire and go live in Hawaii and have the happiest life possible. And Thor will fall down from the heavens and smash Teppei's skull in with a hammer. I mean, it's not still murder if a mythological being does it, right? Yay, Big Sis, you're needed for the bad ending. You're needed for the bad ending. Like I said, all we gotta do is, everything will be fine. Though there is a version of the story where you go insane and kill all of us too, because you're jealous. Fuck. Chewbacca noise! Fuck! Okay, so Oishi-san retires early, goes to Japan, which is actually very close to Japan. Goes to Hawaii. I said Japan multiple times. Okay, so Oishi-san retires a year early, flies from Japan to Hawaii, and just has the happiest life ever. God strikes... I don't know, Teppei runs into Yujiro in the middle of Japan, and Yujiro kills Teppei. And I give a stuffed animal to Mion, and me and her start dating. We're the happiest people ever, and we love each other super bunches, and we play Super Mario World, and Assassin's Creed, and Halo, and we have tons of sex. But then Shion's all jealous, because she's like, I wanted someone to love, and then she fucking murders all of us because she's jealous. Because then she becomes a yandere for me, and she's jealous her sister has me, and then, locks her sister in a dungeon, and pretends to be her sister. Which then means the last 2 times I probably fucked Mion, I'm actually having fucked sex with Shion and not knowing it. Everyone's like, you came up with an even worse, scarier version of the story than what the developers of the game came up with. I don't know, maybe that's actually what happens. Be careful, everyone. If you make my sister mad, you're sure to get a bad end. What are you saying? So in the next version of the story, Keiichi and Mion become all lovey-dovey, are the happiest people in the world because they love each other super bunches. Both platonically and very much romantically. And then Shion gets really jealous, yandere, and kills us all. Well, shit. What are you saying, Shion? Next time I'll pound nails into you without mercy. Bang, bang. Just you wait. Wait. Just you wait. We can't solve any of the mysteries thus far, but we seem to have put together a plan for how to get the story to end happily. I wonder if that would really make us happy. Oshi-san, Teppei-san don't show up. Like I said, Teppei dies, and Oishi-san just like, you can just go to Hawaii, have a happy retirement, and like Keiichi and Mion could like become boyfriend and girlfriend and love each other very much. Mion-san gets the doll. Is that all we have to make sure of? You're right. We're all forgetting the most important thing. Remember the Great Himisawa disaster? Alright. You cannot prevent natural disasters. True. We cannot prevent a volcano. But we can at least be aware of it somehow. I don't know how we would fix that. Should we have everyone in the village put on a gas mask and move away? It's probably Oyashiro-sama's curse. Okay, so hypothetically, if no one dies, then the volcano won't erupt. So we need to make sure not to make Oyashiro-sama angry. Okay, so we can't leave the village. We can't insult Oyashiro-sama. We can't desecrate or sneak into the shrine. We can't murder people. This is getting a little tricky. We mustn't anger Oyashiro-sama, eh? And what should we do in order to prevent that? The dam project itself is probably out of the question. Well, I mean, isn't that already prevented? Maybe there was never a dam project in the first place? That would be hard. If it didn't happen, we would need a ritual to quell Oyashiro-sama's anger. Sinking a sacrifice in Ogufu Swamp, a ritual sacrifice? A sacrifice? Who do we sacrifice? Come on, use your head. Someone who dies no matter what happens. Jiro! If he's gonna die anyway, then we might as well have it help out Himisawa. That's not nice. When you say dies no matter what, you're talking about me, aren't you? I knew all along. I knew you had some very important role in this story, Jiro-san. We'll get you to play your part. Damn it. And with that, we have a blueprint for getting a nice, happy, good ending, don't we? Let's give it a try since we have time. Wait a minute! Did me sinking a motorcycle into the swamp cause the volcano? Or did the baseball bat do it? Everyone involved, come over here. Or was it the rain? First, we stop Uncle Hojo, whose liver ran out on him, from returning to Himisawa. Hiya, my name is Uncle Hojo. He has no portrait, so I'm standing in. I'm so lonely and blue because my lover ran away. Time to go back to Himisawa, lock up Satoko-chan, and raise her into a maid, sir. Why don't I take my motorbike back? I'll just put in the key and click. Click, explosion! Kaboom! Judgment! Flawless victory. Fatality. To ashes and dust shall you return. So Satoko-chan, don't you think that's a little too much gunpowder? I hope Coach is alright. Sweat. Next, we stop Oshi-san from showing up. Me this time. Okay, so we're gonna give you tickets to Hawaii, and you can go have a vacation, buddy. Retire early, man. You earned it. Except for this chapter, you're kind of an asshole. By the way, just go to Hawaii, have fun. My name is a hot, good-looking, middle-aged man who looks like a blue... You are not middle-aged. You are elderly. Kaboom! Oh, we just murdered him. Meep! Judgment for you! You were just murdered by the Acme Coyote. And lest we forget, a follow-up service for my sister. Come here, big sis. There's a cute little doll for you. Is it stuffed with fucking gunpowder? Oh, how nice. I'm not really understanding this. And finally, we must quell Oyoshiro-sama's anger. Then, will our last actor please come up? Tie him You exploded! Why are you still here? You went kaboomy. Tie him fast, wrap him up, and hang him. He'll sink for 3 days, right? I'm not that patient. We'll just get it over with. And with that, the case has been closed. The end! Oh no, all of a sudden, this arm of mine is glowing with an awesome power. Is this a G Gundam reference? The pile of corpses is a pretty big deal. Huh? It's the phone. Hello? Oh, Cage-kun. Thanks for all your work. Yeah, looks like you're all having a roaring old time. Yeah, here I am busy with reading the scenario for the next story. Whatever, I'm in a good mood today, so I'll let you off without any teasing. Is she on there? Can you put her on? What? You're going to announce it here? I wanted to keep it secret for a while longer, but okay. A secret between Shion and Keiichi-san? What do you mean? Nobody told me about this. Nobody. Okay, Kei-chan, let's say it at the same time. 1, 2, 3. The main character of the next story will be Shion Sonozaki. What? Yes, so that's that. The one topping the popularity charts since her first appearance. The late-appearing younger sister of the twins has been the pattern of things ever since the days of TH. I have no idea what that means, and it doesn't matter. Anyway, I've been fired from my main character post for once. If the rumors are right, I might even get a portrait finally. Yahoo! Well, portraits of Kei-chan would be a big waste of disk space. If it couldn't all fit on one disk, there's a pretty high chance he'd be the first one dropped. Are you okay with that, this Shion-san? The main character always meets some terrible fate in the end. Coo. Well, until now, but that doesn't necessarily mean it'll happen next time. With Tatarigoroshi. We're already at the third game in the Higurashi When They Cry series. This first half presented a lot of strange and exciting mysteries, but starting next time, the mysteries will start to be solved in the second half, marking the start of the investigation arc, temporary name. That means it'll be a thrilling story where I become a detective and solve all these cases, unfair mysteries. You'd all better think up a good signature phrases, like, "You, sir, are the criminal." It won't happen, never. You'll get too close to the 3 family secrets, be in prison, and then get tortured. You're a shoo, and to meet a violent, unnatural death. Sis, I would say the same to you. Are you mentally prepared for me to see through all of your mysteries and secrets, and then have you apologize to me and commit suicide? No chance of Oyoshiro-sama's curse for me, is there? Anyway, the new story to begin the second half, temporarily called Miyakashi, or Eye-Opening, is currently undergoing diligent development. We should be able to unveil it to you all in the near future, so I hope you'll look forward to it. Onikakushi Watanagashi and Tatarigoroshi. What truths will you come up with after reading these 3 stories? Or will you just come up with more questions instead of theories? Reno has no clue either. Ah ha ha, for all of you warriors who never yielded to these three mysteries and kept on fighting, we present you with one final scenario as thanks for your enthusiasm, one which we never originally planned on giving you. Please enjoy it. Well, thanks for joining me on the third game. There are still 7 more Higurashi games to go. I appreciate you guys hanging out. I hope everyone has all the hugs and headpats you could ever want and need. Later, guys. Bye.